the Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome to the Marketing with Purpose Kit series of the Bliss Business Podcast, where we explore what it really takes for marketing leaders to create impact that goes beyond the numbers. I'm Michelle, and in each episode, we sit down with marketing experts to explore their leadership approach and strategies that drive performance and resonate with their audience. Together, we'll dive into what's working, what's not, and how purpose and empathy can transform the way brands connect with people. Let's get started. Today, I'm joined by Martha O'Gorman, Chief Marketing Officer at Loyalty Brands, and one of the most influential marketers and brand builders in modern franchising. Martha brings more than 3 decades of experience shaping national brands, guiding entrepreneurs, and creating marketing that is both strategic and deeply human. A certified franchise executive, an active member of the International Franchise Association's Marketing and Innovation Committee, she has led brand development across a diverse portfolio, from tax preparation and small business accounting to mobile pet grooming and home services. Known for finding the emotional heart of a story and expressing it with clarity and purpose, Martha helps brands attract investors, empower business owners, and elevate their impact. We're going to explore bringing purpose and empathy into marketing, and I'm excited to dive in. Martha, before we dive in, I'd love to hear why was bringing purpose and empathy into marketing the topic you chose to explore with us today, and what makes it so important right now?
Well, hi, Michelle, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. The reason that I chose this topic is because I have kind of been led into that way of working and that way of feeling through the 30 plus years that I've been working with John Hewitt, who's the CEO of Loyalty Brands and was also the leader of Liberty Tax Service. And I helped to grow Liberty Tax Service from 0 offices to well over 7,000 by the time we left to start Loyalty Brands. And that in and of itself was a very, very onerous task for someone at my age that I was then. Now, of course, I'm much older and so, of course, wiser. But through that whole development process, we worked so hard to get wonderful franchisees to come into our system, to believe in our system, and to understand the value of empathy and purpose when it comes to serving customers, and especially with something as complicated and stressful as income tax preparation. So through all of that, years and years of watching people first come into the system, afraid of, their first tax season, and then watching them grow into, most of them, into very, very successful franchisees with multiple offices, and also lots of stories about how they had helped customers and served their community. And through that process, through that journey, it kind of changed my attitude towards business in general, but marketing in particular, since that's mainly my focus, because I realized that you could use marketing as a way, obviously, to reach customers, but also to reach customers' hearts. And I think that that's the way that you build a business, a great business. And it's also a way that you build a customer base, a loyal customer base who comes back year after year because of the way you have conducted business and the feelings that they get from you and your franchisees.
Wow. Well, first of all, 7,000 franchises. That is a tremendous number tremendous number of people that you worked with and supported. And yeah, I love your heart-centered approach. That goes a long way with people. Not only d- do you end up having a very profitable business, but you feel good in the process, and so do your customers and the people that you work with. So, yeah, great to hear. CMOs are often pulled between near-term campaign results and long-term brand building. How do you ensure your marketing strategy stays aligned with the company's growth goals, and where do you find the biggest friction points in making that happen?
Well, when you're building any kind of a brand, you have to have a strategy, and we had a strategy at Liberty Tax, which was always to become the biggest tax service in the country. We didn't quite make that, but what we did do was we followed the strategy of making sure that you were committed to the customer, that you had your campaigns aligned with the long-term goal. And sometimes, you have to switch gears and do something based upon maybe a tax change or something that happened that didn't necessarily align with your long-term strategy. And so you always have to be on the cusp of change. You always have to make sure that you're following trends, that you're listening to your customers, you're listening to your employees. And of course, with the job that I had and have, you have to listen to the people, the salespeople who are communicating with new prospects and finding out what's making them interested in purchasing one of our franchise brands to become awarded a franchise with one of our 10 brands, which, as you can imagine, is a little bit of a matrix to build. But the bottom line is always making sure that your messaging is in line with your strategy, with your company goals, and most important is the company culture. Our culture is one of making sure that we have happy, successful franchisees. Because without our franchisees and without them being happy and successful, the company is really just a shell. And so we every day, at least I do, I say that to myself when I'm trying to make a decision about something. I say, is this going to make our franchisees happy and successful? And how is it going to make them feel from a feel good standpoint, how they're servicing their customers. And also I always think every single day that every time we add a franchise to our organization, we are adding a family tree branch to that family.
Oh,
And I love the fact that I've seen franchisees come into the system, get married, have children, and now their children are part of our system. And so it's when we say it's a family, it truly is. And it's also a way for us to kind of build a legacy for ourselves. I know that every day when I'm approached with a franchisee who has a problem and I'm able to help them and they're grateful, they say thank you. It makes me, want to go on one more day, one more day. Every day is a new experience. And the other thing, at this time of the year, it always cracks me up because I always think about It's a Wonderful Life, and where they say every time a bell rings, an angel gets their wings. And I kind of feel that way with franchisees, is every time a
oh,
franchisee becomes a Zoom and Grooming franchise or an ATAX franchise or a Hike Doggy franchise, they're getting their wings. And it's just kind of I grew up with that movie and had probably seen it at multiple times. And so I like to think about that when I think about our franchisees. I kind of envision them all floating around with their wings and doing good.
I love that. It's such a nice image, for sure. In high stakes situations like a brand crisis or market downturn, how do you maintain a sense of purpose and empathy while making quick strategic decisions?
Well, crises are something that no one wants to face. And um, the main thing about crisis is to keep your cool while you're making those decisions. And the one thing I like to think about with crisis is when crises hit, it really shows you the character of the people within your organization and how they deal with problems. I can personally say that we've never had a crisis of the magnitude of you might if you were in the food industry or things that really could negatively impact people's health or life. Ours are mostly dealing with just government regulations or advertising regulations or things that aren't necessarily fun, but they're not life stopping, and that's important. And I must say that I really hope that we are never faced with anything of that magnitude, but I can tell you that if we are prepared because we have just standards of ways that we communicate, how we answer press inquiries, anything that might come our way, we're prepared. And a crisis only makes you stronger once you come through the other side.
Yes, yes. Oh, right on. hmm And I think, it sounds like, and I know just from meeting other of your brands within loyalty brands, that the culture you have just is permeated through every single person. So your core values, your higher purpose, they always shine through in every single person we've spoken with. So it can tell that that you're doing a great job there.
Well, I will say, Lee, it comes from the top down.
Mhm.
The culture and the mentorship and the kindness that
Yes.
we exhibit, I think, is all a result of John Hewitt
hmm
and many of us who have followed him over the course of the last 30 plus years and learned from him in many, many ways. But his look at business is people first, profit second.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we found is that's profitable too, right? It's the right thing to do, but it's also profitable as well. So, when you're launching a new product or entering a new market, what's been your most effective way to align sales, product, and customer success teams? And where does that alignment, or does it tend to break down?
Well, it always breaks down between the marketing and the sales department. And the one thing that I can unequivocally say is that in this environment, in the loyalty brands environment, we have been able to kind of break down that silo or those silos and work together. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we have such fun brands to work with. And so it's not as always tension ridden to come up with the right marketing ideas. And a lot of it has to do with experience that we've lived with for over 30 years, and in John's case 55 years, 56 years of understanding people and understanding people's personalities. And you gotta give everybody a little bit of a wide circle, because nobody's perfect. And when they're not perfect, or when I'm not perfect, we find ways to work through it. And I think that that's a real problem with many companies because they it's almost like you've got a gaggle of geese that are all fighting for the same piece of food. And our business isn't like that. It's very, very welcoming, and when somebody new joins the team, I mean, it's kind of like a celebration, and I just feel like that's what makes us different. And we've always said we have differentiators, and I think that's one of them.
Yeah, that's a huge one for sure. And I think a lot of people are looking for that type of culture and company to work with, especially the younger generation. They just don't want to settle, right? For earning an income. They're looking for a job that has meaning and purpose, and a culture that is inclusive too. So,
And you get that with a franchise organization, because your job is to make sure that the people that you have brought into your organization realize their dreams. And so it's not like that at a bank or a grocery store, and any one of the number of things that we use on a daily basis. When you're in a franchise organization and you're helping franchisees grow, you're really helping them develop their future and the future of their family.
yeah, because it does impact their families too, right? And their community as well. So, can you share a time when customer feedback or behavior data completely shifted your campaign direction, and what that taught you about balancing intuition with analytics?
Well, I'm not exactly sure that this is going to answer the question exactly, but I will tell you a story that is one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned in my career. Back when we were working at Jackson Hewitt many, many years ago, we got great response from running advertising on buses. So transit advertising, how you see a card on the side of the bus that has some message for whatever the case may be. Well, we did that very successfully. And one year I decided that I really wanted a different look and feel for that particular advertising channel that we were using. And I had the bus card redesigned, and I had a picture of a computer, like a animated computer. And then I had the message in big bubble letters, if you know what I mean. They were rounded and not a real clear font. And so got the buses up, and they're running around Virginia Beach where we live. And I get a call from John, and he was like, "I need you to do something." And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "I want you to get one of our old bus cards, and I want you to get the new bus card and put the old bus card on one side of the bus and the new bus card on the other side of the bus, and bring it over to the corporate headquarters immediately." Wasn't quite that stern, but that's how it sounded to me. So anyway, I did that, and everybody came out of the office, and everybody stood on the street and watched as the buses went by. And then everybody voted for which one was more readable. And unfortunately for me, the one that I had done for like 3 years in a row, which was yellow with black letters, I mean, very, very, very much two very readable colors together, won hands down. I mean, nobody liked the other one at all. And so I went to John, and I said to him that I am really sorry. I know that was a very costly mistake, and I'm here to tender my resignation. Now, at the time, I think I might have been 32 or 33. I was pretty young, and compared to now. And he looked at me, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, John, no, it's going to cost us $20,000 to fix this mistake." And he said, "Well, do you think that I just spent $20,000 to educate you and I'm going to let you quit. So I was going to earn my tuition, and basically is what I'm thinking. But and I know that doesn't exactly answer your question, but it does in the way that when there is a problem, whether it's a trend in the market or even the IRS makes a last minute decision and we have to totally change all of our advertising as a result of that, I always look back on that and think to myself, what can we do to make this work? And, try not to, make it cost an arm and a leg, but also do it successfully and get it done fast.
Yeah.
So it is the same thing, but it's not. But my perception of that whole idea is you have to be able to sometimes see into the future, or you have to be prepared to, turn on a dime. And it's not always fun, but when you do it and when you learn how to do it, it stays with you for the rest of your career.
Very nice, kind way that John handled that with you and gave you that opportunity, right, to grow
Absolutely
in your position. What's worked best for turning marketing into a revenue driver at your company or at Loyalty Brands? And where do you see gaps in CRM, lead tracking, or even sales alignment that make it hard to measure success?
Well, we get data from all different sources, and we have a CRM, but we also have a lot of people coming to us because they saw us on Facebook, they saw our website, they heard about us from a friend. I mean, there's all of these secondary and tertiary ways that people learn about us. And so to be efficient with that, you have to also, I guess, be a little bit of a fortune teller by understanding that when we do get a lead, that lead needs to be contacted immediately, and we need to find out why they're calling us or why they have connected with us. Because, you can ask people all day long on a lead gen form, how did you hear about us? And sometimes they say something that we don't even do from an advertising standpoint. So, and I, I have lived this for so many years that I'm very, very used to it. And so you have to be open to the fact that not everything that we're going to do is going to work. Our CRM isn't always going to be perfect. And that the best thing that you can possibly do is to make sure that the people who are answering your ads, whether it be for a consumer service or whether it be for sales of a franchise, that you have to get to know them, and then you have to figure out exactly why they're there. And there's no amount of automation that's ever going to change that. This is a people business. This is a need for us to communicate directly with the folks that are interested in buying from us. And no automation, no robot, no AI is going to change that. And so I just have to keep reminding myself, and my peers are the same way, that as long as we're bringing the right people in and we're making the right decisions as to who's going to be a good franchise and how we're going to help them grow, I think we've done our job.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, you can't replace face-to-face interactions or that human element, right? The two. What's your approach to developing marketing talent so they not only hit performance goals, but also stay engaged and inspired? And where do you see leaders struggling most in retaining top talent?
Well, you would think the first thing that would come to mind would be money, and that's not it. What I have found in the years that I've been a manager and then a C-suite executive is that people want good leadership. They want transparency. They want to know where they stand. And if you answer those types of questions, then you will retain great employees. Now, some people you can never stop from saying, I'm not making enough money and I'm going to go, to the next place. But I'm always surprised after about a year or two when they show back up at the front door saying, can I come back? Because I really like working here. And if you have leaders who are, like I said, transparent and are willing to not, you don't always have to explain why or how to someone, but you have to let them know that these decisions, any decisions that have been made with the employee's interest at heart. And our employees are very, very important to us, and we retain them because they genuinely like working for loyalty brands.
Yeah. Quality of life is important, right? And the interactions you have at your work.
Right.
When you think about the role marketing plays in your company's future, how do you feel about the role of purpose and empathy in creating genuine resonance, connecting with people in a way that reflects your company's values?
Well, I think when we first started Loyalty Brands, and I wrote the press release announcing what we were going to be doing, and obviously things have shifted a lot since then, because back then we didn't have a single pet brand, and now we've got 4.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing was, and it's something that I believe was what made us successful at the other companies that we were with, is that we have to position ourselves as a community first business. So meaning that the franchisees in the community have to be involved with the community, do things with the community, for the community, whether it be participate in parades, sponsor soccer teams, things that are really showing the folks, oh, these people really care. And I've always said, they have to know who you are, what you stand for, where you are, and what you do. So by doing those things, you don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars on television advertising or things that are really meaningless to people anymore. The way we're hit with marketing messages these days makes it very difficult to get a pinpoint on what's going to get somebody to come into your office. And what we found is that we like to make the phones ring and the doors swing by being out in the community and then having people come back in and get their taxes done, get their dog groomed. And then once that happens, we treat them right so that they keep coming back. And it's just exponential in how we build a business.
Yeah, that is one of the best things about franchises, is that spirit of community, right? We see that across all the brands that we've interviewed or had a conversation with on our podcast. And there's so much care and empathy and compassion and even joy in the connections that they make within their local and even micro communities. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us on the Bliss Business Podcast today, Martha. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas for how our audience can align strategy, execution, and purpose in your own work. If you found value in this discussion, like, subscribe, and share it to keep the conversation going. And remember, great marketing doesn't just sell, it serves. See you next time.